you, Amy. Thank you for being here today. And Amy is my marketing support for Unbounded and has been that for a while now. And Amy has been on our Quality of Mind program a couple of times, which has been beautiful to see you evolving and shifting through that. And the reason for this recorded conversation was Amy's a working mum, and some of the elements of this work has really impacted you, as you've told me, around being a mum generally, and also then being a working mum. So so let's just flow and explore and see what arises. It'd be lovely to share anything you want to share, and it's like to be of value to the listeners, to share insights that any working mum listening to this might get something from. That would be awesome, Amy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Martin. So we've worked together for a bit of time now, and obviously theoretically I knew quite a bit about quality of mind and what it might be able to unlock, and potentially how it might help me. Through us working together, I realized that I had quite a lot of unhelpful or kind of recurring thought patterns, which made me feel like I had to be busy all of the time. A lot of people are probably feeling like this, but it felt a bit like there was a never-ending to-do list. And I think I realized through speaking to you that I held quite a lot of my value in being busy and getting through that to-do list, making sure everything was done, everything was perfect, that everything that the kids needed to have or be learning, or their homework was done, their washing was done, my work was done. And there was definitely something around thoughts and busyness that were definitely becoming quite unhelpful.
And what was the impact of that on you, in how you felt, or in how you were with the kids? Or
so the impact, as I see it now, I probably wasn't as aware of it until I went on the Quality of Mind courses, was that I wasn't really living in the present in any way. I was kind of tick boxing my way through life and time with the kids. So that meant that probably I wasn't accessing the joy that was happening in the moment. I was just kind of getting through it. So it was, definitely it was not living in the present as much as I potentially could have been.
Stressful too?
Extremely stressful, at times. There were moments where I felt like the to-do list was under control and that, that I could handle it. And then there's moments where it's actually really, really tiring, is what I would say. It felt like a lot of the time I couldn't win. So I was either with the kids, but thinking about work, or I was at work, but thinking about the kids. There was a level of guilt as well that I think I felt most of the time, because these thoughts just kept on coming up about what I should be doing more of. The stress levels were pretty high.
I remember you talking to me then about, instances like the bedtime routine and or the early morning getting ready for school routine. And those felt quite stressful, because there was you needing to manage it all, to get it all done to time, the schedule. Does that make
absolutely.
sense?
Absolutely. I think to any working mum, most mums that you talk to will have some level of schedule that they internally feel like they need to keep to. And that was definitely the case with me. It was get up, breakfast, reading, homework, school stuff on, get shoes on, get out of the door at exactly the time I wanted to in order to drop them back, in order to be back at a certain time, clean up any detritus that was left from kind of the morning routine, and then get into work. And then it started again, at the end of the day. So there was a schedule there that was quite intense. And I think doing Quality of Mind and understanding kind of my rational brain and then the content that I was creating didn't need to be that way. That's what it felt like to me. It gave me much more flexibility. I think
you're speaking is like the control is the rational mind thinking it needs to manage all of life and control life and have life be a certain way and have us be successful and looked after and clean and have enough money and this and that. And so there's this part of the mind that's like trying to manage our entire existence.
Yeah.
And so when we release ourselves from the grip of that rational mind, or some might call it ego, there's more ease, there's more softness, there's more joy, there's more ability to be present, right?
Absolutely. And I felt all of those things much more, I would say, in the last 6 to 8 months than I have probably for maybe even 2 or 3 years before that. Just the access, like you said there, the access to joy, I think, has been probably for me one of the most important things. I've been able to actually spend time with my kids and feel like I am with them, not partly with them, but partly trying to control everything that should be happening and could be happening, and recognizing that they themselves have their own reality. And that,
can you say a little bit more for people listening to this, like have their own reality? What do you mean by that?
Well, the kids just want to be the kids. They want to play. They don't particularly want to get dressed, eat their breakfast within a 5-minute time frame. They want to be in flow in what they're doing. So me kind of removing what they're doing because it fits in with my time schedule, even though there's times where you have to do that as a parent, even though there's times that things have to get done, it's not, what I've realized is it's wonderful for them to be acting like kids and to be in flow and to be playing and to be doing their own thing. That doesn't take away or for me, I think I was forgetting that they were their own people and that they have their own thoughts and feelings, and that instead I was there to manage what they should be doing.
So I love what you say. And so one of the things learning about the mind then is to realize that everyone is living in their own thinking and their own experience of life. And what I'm interpreting from what you're saying is there's Amy, the mum, who's got her thinking that says we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this, etc., etc. Or I wouldn't do it like that, or you should do it like this, based upon the world and the thinking that you've grown up with, which is of course entirely different to your little kids.
Yeah.
And what's going on in their mind and what they're thinking about and what gives them joy, etc., etc. And I hear what you're saying is at times, of course, a mum needs to organize and get them in the car with their shoes on, etc. But there's like, how do we tune in more? How do we release the grip of some of our just conditioning, like that you grew up with and that you're now enforcing onto them?
Yeah.
How do you tune more into where they're at and how they're feeling and what they're thinking, and have curiosity about that?
Yeah. And I think that understanding that separate reality has also really allowed me to approach them with more compassion when they're feeling big feelings, which kids often are, big feelings that to you and I would not be a big deal, or that you might think are not a big deal. I don't want to do this. This is very frustrating. It's allowed me to step away from my reality and try and tune into what they're thinking, and therefore be able to be really empathetic with them and be much more compassionate with them. And probably one of the biggest shifts that I've seen between our relationship, actually, recognizing that, is just how much more quickly they calm down if I'm just there to just be there with them, sit in the trenches with them. They're upset, instead of trying to say, stop crying, we don't have time for that, you need to just get your shoes on, mummy's running out of time, I've got a meeting at 9, etc., etc. If I sit with them and I say, I can understand that must be so frustrating, that you can't do that at the moment, or that we need to do this, and then you'll have 5 more minutes. They calm down almost instantly. You know, they just want a hug. They want someone to be there with them, properly be there, not just 1 minute. I would imagine a lot of people that listen to this will have heard themselves say 1,000 times a day, just a minute, just a minute. I'm just going to finish this and then I'll come to you. Give me 2 minutes. And being able to just stop and be present with them, they are instantly, you know, so much happier. And so am I. I leave them at the school gates or pick them up at the end of the day, and everybody is much calmer. Everybody is much more joyful.
Wonderful. Any other examples that spring to mind where you've now done something differently, or been differently, and how it's impacted a situation?
Practically, what I realized is that in my own reality, I needed to give myself a little bit more time so that I did not feel as stressed with them. So practically, that meant me getting up half an hour earlier to do the things that they didn't need to be part of, practically. So that gave me a bit more space without trying to put it on them that they need to move faster. It's been things like leaving some of the stuff that I would try and cram into my morning routine. For instance, putting that next load of washing on, or hanging that washing up when really I should be sitting doing their homework, and just accepting that I can do that at a different time. That it doesn't all have to be crammed in to that specific time frame, which is what I was putting on myself at numerous points of the day, including after school.
Yeah, awesome. Wonderful.
And interestingly, we still get through the same amount of stuff, but without the drama that we were maybe seeing beforehand. So it's...
And what's then your relationship to time, and or your relationship to doing? What's shifted there in one of those or both of those areas?
Yeah, I think the relationship to doing is going to be an ongoing one. It's a fairly deep belief that I have that being busy is important, and that gives me worth, despite the fact I now am well aware that it doesn't. It's a deep rooted belief, I think, that I've got. But what I have been learning, and what quality of mind has given me access to, is just to recognize the thoughts as they come up. So the thoughts about needing to do the next thing, about being busy, about making sure I'm always doing something, just being aware of those thoughts instantly allows me to let them go. Before, I would not have recognized them as even a thought. It was just going through the motions.
Yeah, amazing. You know, one of the key parts of this journey about learning about the mind, personal development, I mean, we could call it quality of mind in our language, but you know, it's personal development is like not just being on a hamster wheel of life, like living out our conditioned way of living and thinking, and doing the same thing and getting the same results sort of time by time, some of which of course works for us, but a lot of which is just conditioning that we picked up on along the way that's happening unconsciously to us.
Yeah.
And what now having a greater, even when you are caught in the conditioned pattern, you know, step number one is have awareness of that. Yeah, have the pause to notice what's going on.
And knowing that the mind is working exactly as it should. It's just doing what it always does, which is creating those thoughts all the time. There's something slightly comforting about knowing that that's just the mechanics of the mind. It doesn't mean it has to impact me in my day-to-day life. Yeah. And you mentioned there about the hamster wheel. We all do get onto a hamster wheel, you know, especially when we're working and we've got kids, and it seems to get faster. And what I've realized is, unless I become aware of those thoughts nothing will change. So that hamster wheel will just keep getting faster. And that conditioning will just keep going as it always has. The idea that there's an entirely different hamster wheel with an entirely different way of doing things is, wonderful.
From having been involved with this for 10 years, that's one of the things that excites me, is I continue to see and challenge the conditioned way of operating. Is like there's so much conditioning from our childhood, but also from society, that creates a level of mindlessness, really, in what we're doing or how we're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's probably worth noting as well the difference it's made. My work definitely impacts on how I show up with my kids. So as a mum, so however, my work is going, what has happened traditionally is if work feels very busy, very stressful, very pressurized, then my reaction to the kids was to be less present, to be more consumed with thoughts about work and what I would need to be doing that night or the next day. And so therefore, being aware of my thoughts has changed my relationships absolutely with people that I work with. So being able to get clarity on projects, being able to have open conversations with clients about deadlines, about what they need from it, things like that, has really lessened that perceived feeling of stress at work, which in turn has massively impacted on how I show up for my kids. Because my work life at the same time has become less busy.
Yeah, awesome, right? Because there's how you think about your work, and how you think about your kids, and of course they're all mixed together, really, if you're stressed when you're working. It sounds to me like you're also managing your, so maybe your thinking about your work has changed, but also how you're managing your work sounds like it might have changed.
Yeah, and the relationships with the people that I'm working with has shifted. And that makes a huge difference. So yes, the way I approach the work has maybe been different, but also the conversations that I've been having with the people I work with have made my working day so much less stressful. But I can recognize when I'm having a thought about something and I can talk to people more openly about it, which instantly means that thought is not consuming me after work, before work, all those times where I really should be focusing on being a mum.
Awesome. We haven't explored this yet, but I'm interested in what I see in parents and mums in particular, a level of thinking about the fact that they need to protect their children. And look out, like being a mother is about providing to such an extent that you protect them, almost overly protecting them from life, protecting them from hurt or pain or anything. And there's some element of that of course is what it is to be a mother or a father, mother in particular, but also part of that is overcompensatory, not allowing them, because we're trying to stop them from having any suffering or pain at all. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes back around to just what I said before about allowing them the feelings that they're having, but yet allowing them those feelings and not trying to stop them from having them, I think is a big step towards that. So acknowledging that they are living in their own reality and that reality is theirs and it's all true and real for them. I think, there's something in allowing them to do that that's quite freeing as a parent as well. That they are going to make mistakes, that they are going to have big feelings, that they are going to come across difficult things. It's part of life.
Yes, and so the role of the parent really is not to overly protect them from that, but to let them experience that and to let them make sense of it and work through it. So it's kind of like helping them develop their own emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
Rather than the parent feeling they have to try and do it.
And there's definitely been an element as well of, as I'm learning, and I'm definitely still learning about how the mind works and how it creates thoughts and feelings and adds labels to those and things, about sharing that with them. So, you know, when they're feeling something, there's been an element of being able to feel like I can try and explain to them what their mind is actually doing, because understanding your mind has to be the most important thing that you can do, and that you can try and help someone else to understand as well. Understanding the mind just has so much power for how you can live a life that feels much more purposeful and in the present and joyful. That's what I've found. And therefore, when they're experiencing their big feelings, there's something comforting in knowing that their mind is just doing exactly what my mind does when it gets stressed or upset, and being able to kind of share with them that that's what's happening.
Yeah, really powerful. Really powerful. I mean, we don't tend to, we haven't learned that ourselves, you know, generally speaking. And so, yeah, but it sounds like it's one of the most fundamental things to teach a child is how to be with what their mind is creating and be with the thoughts and the feelings that arise.
Yeah. And that is absolutely natural, and that your mind is doing exactly what it should be doing.
Yes. And there's another element of that, which is feelings, good and bad feelings, are okay. And part of what we try to do is to stop people having bad feelings, because we don't want them to feel the suffering or have suffering ourselves, as opposed to developing a relationship with those feelings where it's okay. Yeah, we don't want to live in this Facebook society where everything needs to be brilliant and shiny.
Yeah, life is not an Instagram reel, unfortunately. So
yeah. Wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to share that you think might be helpful to a working mum?
I know we work together, Martin, but it really has been one of the most powerful pieces of self-development, or whatever you want to call it, that I've ever done. It's changed, it's completely transformed the way I feel. It keeps saying the word joy, but it has allowed me to access so much more joy with my kids. And I know that so many parents, I mean, all of my friends that are parents and that work, they're all feeling this same level of stressed kind of, you know, stress or busyness is just a huge thing. You hear it from everybody. I feel so busy. I haven't got any time. I snapped at the kids this morning. All this stuff, you know, quality of mind has just, it doesn't mean it's perfect all the time, but it's just allowed me so much more space to understand what's going on.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And so to people, we created this video because we wanted to be thought-provoking to working mums, for working mums. On some level, of course, in the process, we're promoting our own programs like Quality of Mind work. You know, by all means, go and look at beunbounded.com and be-unbounded.com and explore a bit further. By all means, come on one of our programs. We'd love you to.
Yeah.
The purpose of it wasn't really about that. It's really to have you stop and think and say, how are you doing as a mum? How are you doing working? How are you doing managing the two? How could you live with peace of mind and clarity and presence and love and joy? And whether that's coming on one of our programs or reading an Eckhart Tolle book or doing some work reading around reality or the mind, or just encouraging you, whoever you are, wherever you are, to go on a personal exploration, because even though there's lots going on in your life, if you're working and you're a mum, it is possible to experience that in an entirely different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add as well that if anybody wanted to know more and is a working mum, then I would be happy to talk to them about it as well. Yeah, it's always nice to share it. It makes helps me.
Thank you, Amy.
All right, thank you, Martin.
Yeah.